Hello, hello, hello. My name is Nicholas Johnston. I am the publisher of Axios. This is a huge, huge treat for us to be a part of this massive event. The energy here has been incredible. The crowds are amazing. The conversations are incredible. We are so grateful for all of you for being here and take part in it. We're especially grateful to Deep Blue Sports Entertainment for working with us to make this happen. And of course, nothing that we do at Axios would be possible without the support of our partners. So we're hugely grateful for Snap for being a participant in today. And I'm very excited to welcome to the stage Colleen DeCourcy, Snap's Chief Creative Officer. Colleen, come on up. Pick whichever chair you'd like. We have a number to select through. Let's do it in the middle.
Let's do it.
So let's start big picture. I guess, what are we doing here?
Why am I here today? I don't know if any of you have seen any of the recent brand and advertising work for Snapchat. But one of the things that we fundamentally believe in is that real-world interaction is something that matters a huge amount. 70% of 13 to 24-year-olds in the top 20 countries in the world are on our platform on a daily basis. It is a very safe bet that more than half of those are young women. And the impact that social media has on young women is disproportionate in terms of sometimes it's positive, but sometimes it's negative. And so in my time here, I've wanted to take a really strong stance on that and fundamentally believe, in my experience as a mother, that one of the things that we can do for our young women is get them out there with other young women, get them into sports, get them on teams, get them relating to other women through their core skill sets, not for how they look on Instagram. And so we wanted to support because this is important for our future.
Yeah, so let's dig in a little bit more on the impact that social media platforms can have. Like you very diplomatically said, it can be positive and negative. How do you, not how you thread that needle, how do you make sure you're on the right side of that impact?
Absolutely. I mean, it's about designing for specific outcomes, right? So making it not a publishing platform. Where you're not putting up a placard for yourself and having to performatively be something you're not. The way that we moderate our content, we moderate early, very early, so that there's a possibility that a certain number of people could see a piece of content. A human being sees it, touches it, sorts it, and makes sure that it's okay, and that stops damaging information from getting to our young women. And it's all about the intention. Where are you starting from? Are you looking to monetize human emotion and sense of self? Or are you looking to support relationships? Because what we know is that friendships matter greatly to young people. And so from the get-go, the way you design something, what your intention is how you cut the difference, and then holding yourself accountable. We do dinners and get-togethers with parents across the country where we hear from them what it's like to be in their home and how it impacts their lives. You may have seen something recently with a thing called Solar System, which basically told young people like where they sat in terms of how close they were to someone that they liked. And when we got the feedback, we changed our position on that. So it's a collaborative process. We all have to be in it together. And we have to be very clear about the difference between a media company and a social interaction.
Well, and I want to dig in on an element of that you just mentioned, the part about humans and robots.
Yes.
Right? Like we're on this approaching, we're in this bubble of AI, the hellscape of the Terminator going to come and murder us all. How do you think about the role a human plays in that? And I guess you touched on this a little, the importance of having a human person instead of a robot make some of these decisions.
Yeah, because I think that the world is not black and white. That you can't set rules around what can be damaging to someone's psyche. That you have to have a sense of values. And I don't know how we imbue that yet into robots. I also, I really believe, listen, I think that it's the same as I've been a creative director my whole life. As it is to be an athlete, that there are certain things that can only come from the heart and soul of a human in terms of performance. And I think that the platforms and content is one of those things that it's just better. Yeah. I'll happily not write the 1,000 A/B tested sublines on an article. Have at. But what I want to know is that someone with a conscience and an ability to really think things through and the impact that they have actually wrote the content.
It's great to have someone standing up for human beings occasionally.
We need it.
Thank you for being on our side briefly. I want to dig in a little bit more on kind of that mention you said about heart and about the role sports plays. But I want to come back to something that I think is really important. Like there's a framing we use at Axios is why it matters a lot. And there's a why it matters that we've talked about before about with people, young women spending so much time on these platforms and the kind of impact it has on that. Why does it matter to get that right, to get that interaction correct?
Oh, I mean, it matters because these are the ages that all human beings are most vulnerable. But for the series of injustices that women have kind of grown up through, even generationally, there's so much larger of an impact, an outsized impact. You know, before coming to Snap, I ran a company called Wieden Kennedy. I was our chief creative and our president. And, you know, the campaigns from, you know, if they call you crazy, show them what crazy can do. That was intentional because we understood the impact that only seeing men's sports, men achieving, that women were actually moving to social media as their place of self-actualization because they didn't feel that the other places let them in, whereas the robots will let in anybody, you know? And so it really matters. It's very important, I think, to the mental health and well-being, which means it's important to where society goes, how we vote for our own best interests, what we do about women's responsibility over their bodies. I mean, the whole thing can be shifted by being fed real content from a person being versus just something that'll
like how do you create a space that is human-centered and therefore safe for humans to be human?
Yes. Well, the other thing that you have to ensure is that either on the way in or the way out, it results in real-world interaction. Because what we know is that the face-to-face interaction between two people is what creates empathy and the ability to be generous and care. And so that is another thing that's really important. You couldn't really have a fulfilling experience on Snapchat if you never actually saw any of those people in real life. It has to be a component of this.
Anchor it in actual existence instead of just somewhere out in the universe.
Yes.
Well, so that brings me back to another reason why we're here. Like, talk a little bit like why sports is such an important element of that, speaking of the real world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, small, short narrative. My daughter, who's incredibly smart, actually, she's a young lawyer now. She was one of the lawyers on the E. Jean Carroll trial, and that was a fascinating thing to watch my little 30-year-olds, you know, be on the cover of every newspaper.
Not that little at 30.
Coming, well, she's 5'1", but you know they never see her coming. She's tough, but when she was in school. First of all, she was going to school in New York City, and she was getting caught up in, she was dressing older than she was. She was partaking in things that I thought were forcing her to grow up too fast. With that, I decided to shift her to another school. She went to school in Connecticut. What I did not see coming is that she had a really rough time on the way in and actually had, you know, something bad happen to her that we feared for her mental health in a very serious and real way. Someone knew that I had been in crew, and they offered one of the girls in the crew who ran crew to just invite her out for you know, a session, just to get her involved in anything. And not only did it save her, truly, we were very concerned. But by the time she graduated, she was, you know, the captain of the team, and then went on to row in college, or coxswain. She switched over to coxing for men's teams. But it changed her perception of who and what she could be in the world that was separate from the gaze of someone else. And I feel like athletics, sport, team sport, that's what it gives us. It gives us the ability to show up and perform to the best of our potential and be judged on that and that alone. And there are very few opportunities for that.
Isn't that a theme that I feel like I've heard on stage before about how athletes, as they grow into adults, how that becomes like a format and a mechanism to like be their true self in a way that you can't other ways.
I think that's right. And again, to draw a corollary, people who ask me, how do you get ahead in the creative field, I always tell them that to have an original voice and your own unique way of seeing the world is the biggest gift that you can bring. And I think that the other place that applies is with female athletes. To have a talent that you own, you hone, you progress, and then you deliver it and you play in your own personal style and you change the world with that. And I think that that's something that there are few and far between opportunities for that.
And so that's interesting, that emotional component of it almost brings it to almost the business case. As we think about, what do we pay attention to? What are the moments that we have to stop and what we're doing and look? It's live sports, is it?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, just from the reptilian part of because I'm now the CMO as well, so I had to learn a business hat for this job. There is nowhere you can have a mass media audience anymore except live sport or live music. And one can scale so much bigger. And so for brands, they need you. Like, we need this in a way that people show up and they watch on an appointment, and they watch because they care, and they connect to people because it matters to them. That is the rare form of mass media that exists today in the world if you are an advertiser or a brand.
I mean, as we've been deluged with Slack notifications and social media pings, and we can do whatever we want any second of the day, the only two things, and I guess an important reason for brands, is like, what can we pay attention to? Where are those moments where people will put down our phones? Perhaps the two of us on stage, if people like that enough. But barring that, it's sports.
It is sports, yes.
Let's pivot a little bit. I want to talk, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what the cool stuff that you folks have brought with you to play with. What's the AR toys we have out there?
You right now have an AR mirror. We actually have these in full body format too. One of the things that's so fun about the AR, and I'll just drop this little, thought in your head. A lot of the AR lenses that we use on Snapchat, they really are like goofing around. They're for fun. My group at work, all of the women literally is kind of the competition of just how bad can you look on this lens, When you look at other platforms who are taking on these lenses, for instance, Instagram had a very high leaning in on the augmentation, like make you look pretty lenses, and the uses weren't as high as they are for like our dorky, like make yourself into a frog or an elephant or like someone that looks like your grandmother lens. It's about taking that away. So I hope you all get the chance to go and play. These tools, like the stickers that we create, it's really, fundamentally, we exist as a peer-to-peer messaging service. The augmented reality and the stickers are there because they are as close as you can get proxy to the kinds of physical language we use with each other when we're in person. And they're there to be fun, to show that you're not so serious about something. So that's all part of it. We have full body ones too, where you can put on a whole outfit. You can see what you'd look like as a rower. You can see what you'd look like as a basketball player. You can see what you'd look like in that outfit. It's just a fun way to explore ourselves, really. And you should go take a look. It's a hoot.
So we'll let you run to that in a second. And before we run out of time here, Axios Stylist to end on one fun thing.
Hey.
As you mentioned earlier, we should probably do one sports thing. Crew runs in your family. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about this and the most important skill you need to have for the type of rower.
Absolutely. I went to college as an artsy kid. I wasn't good at gym even, and discovered I was light enough, small enough, and loud enough that they could stick me in the front of a boat, and I could, learn how to cox. And it was a really profound thing. My daughter, then, as I told you, became one, and the loudest coxswain I think I've ever heard. But it relates to what I do now in business as well, in that you have to be sure, confident, single message, lots of clarity, repeat it often, and be fucking loud.
Repeat it often and be loud. The best MBA any of you will get on how to succeed in business. Colleen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Big thanks to Snap for making today possible. Stick around. The conversations continue.
Thanks. It's nice to see you all.